I literally became a different person. I'm not even kidding. One day you're you, and the next, you're doing these insane things you never thought you'd do. You look in the mirror and have no idea who that is. And you have to ask yourself one question. How did this get so crazy? You've seen the headlines, you've seen the mugshots, but you have no idea what really happened. Forget that story. This isn't it. We didn't get these stories from the news. We went directly to the people who lived it. This is the story from the other side. Yeah, it's about the fall, but it's also about the insane climb to the top. Before every epic fail, there's an unbelievable beginning, and it's never what you think. It doesn't start with some evil plan. It starts with a dream. For one person, it was becoming a pro soccer player with thousands of fans screaming his name. For another, it was being crowned homecoming queen with a future so bright it was insane. It starts with wanting to be the best. Then, someone whispers, "I know a faster way." A shortcut to get everything you've ever wanted right now. The money, the cars, the power, it's an insane offer. And once you hear it, it's all you can think about. The first step down the wrong path doesn't feel wrong. It feels like you found a cheat code to life, like you're finally winning. I remember seeing all that cash. It was crazy. More money than my parents made in a year, just sitting in a duffel bag. It felt like I'd beaten the system that everyone else was losing at. The cars, the clothes, the parties, it was unbelievable. You build a wall of expensive things around you so no one sees you're falling apart. People don't see who you are, they see what you have, and they want it. That kind of attention is addicting. It's easy to believe you're a king when everyone treats you like one. A drug dealer who becomes a legend isn't just selling a product. He's selling a crazy fantasy that feels more real than real life. That jewelry was a trophy. For this former thief, every single piece was a win, proof that he was smarter and faster than everyone else. You're not just stealing diamonds. You're stealing a life you were told you could never, ever have. It's the ultimate rebellion. You tell yourself it's a victimless crime, that the banks have insurance, the rich can afford it. These are the lies you tell yourself to make it okay. You become the CEO of your own criminal empire, and you call it a business plan. But the high never lasts. The higher you climb, the crazier the fall. You get paranoid. Every phone call could be the cops. Every new friend could be an informant. The mansion you built to protect yourself starts to feel like a prison. The empire you built on shortcuts starts to crumble because shortcuts never work. And then comes the moment the dream is completely destroyed. It's not always a huge police raid. Sometimes it's just the click of handcuffs. It's the coldest sound in the world. The game is over, and you lost big. You didn't just lose your freedom. You lost your family, your reputation, your entire life. It just stopped. And in that silence, I heard my own heartbeat, and it was the sound of my life ending. The person I was, the homecoming queen with the perfect life, was gone. In her place was the stranger, a drug dealer facing decades in prison. It was like watching a movie of someone else's insane life, but I was living the consequences. I remember the silence in the car after the arrest. All the noise, the parties, the fake friends, it just stopped. And in that silence, I heard my own heartbeat, and it was the sound of my life ending. The person I was, the homecoming queen with the perfect life, was gone. In her place was the stranger, a drug dealer facing decades in prison. It was like watching a movie of someone else's insane life, but I was living the consequences. I remember the silence in the car after the arrest. For others, the fall is a slow, brutal spiral. Addiction costs you a massive career, your health, your family. You start by chasing a high, and you end up running from your life. You trade a future on a soccer field for a tiny prison cell. The cheering fans are replaced by a slamming steel door. That's the real price. It's not just the prison time, it's the life you lose. The person you could have been is gone forever. This fraud was genius until it blew up in his face. He was a financial wizard, moving numbers, creating millions of dollars from thin air with credit card schemes. It felt clean, almost like a video game. But then you see the faces, the real people whose lives you completely ruined. You realize you didn't just steal money. You stole their security, their trust, their entire lives. You didn't just break the law, you broke people. And that's a debt you can never repay. Prison strips you down to absolutely nothing. Your name becomes a number. You have zero choices. Your future is a blank wall you stare at for years. This is rock bottom. This is where you have to finally face who you became. There's nowhere to run. No more lies, no more Lambos. There's only you and the insane weight of your past. It's here, in this horrible place, that the real challenge begins. Not how do I get out, but how did I get in here? Not whose fault is this, but I did this to myself. It's a brutal 24/7 battle with yourself, going over every bad decision until you get to the first one, the one that started this whole disaster. This is not a story of innocent people. Every person you'll hear from made a choice. They chose the money, the thrill, the shortcut. This is a story about what happens next. It's about looking in the mirror in a tiny cell and finally seeing who's staring back. And it's about answering the hardest question. Is this the end of my story? Or can I make a comeback? The shame is overwhelming. It's a crushing weight. You think about everyone you hurt, your family, your friends, your victims. You see their faces every time you close your eyes. And you understand the real prison isn't made of steel bars. It's the one in your mind, filled with every bad thing you've ever done. How do you come back from that? How do you rebuild a life from zero? Where do you even start? For most people, this is where the story ends. But for some, this is where the comeback begins. Redemption isn't a single moment. It's not a movie scene where everything is suddenly fixed. It's a choice you have to make every single day. Waking up in that cell and deciding, I will do better. And then doing it again the next day, and the next. It's the hardest challenge you can imagine. 100% truth. It's taking the story of your epic fall and turning it into a lesson so other people don't crash and burn. Becoming a prison reform advocate, fighting for people still inside. Using your experience with fraud to write a book, to build a community, to make sure your mistakes help someone else win. It's taking the darkest chapter of your life and showing it to the world. It starts with a tiny bit of hope. For some, it's finding a new mission, taking the discipline from the soccer field and using it to mentor other people, building a new life one day at a time. It's about becoming the hero you were supposed to be, turning a terrible story into an amazing one. 100% truth. It's taking the story of your epic fall and turning it into a lesson so other people don't crash and burn. Becoming a prison reform advocate, fighting for people still inside. Using your experience with fraud to write a book, to build a community, to make sure your mistakes help someone else win. It's taking the darkest chapter of your life and showing it to the world. For others, it's using your voice, standing in front of the world and telling the 100% truth. It's taking the story of your epic fall and turning it into a lesson so other people don't crash and burn. Becoming a prison reform advocate, fighting for people still inside. Using your experience with fraud to write a book, to build a community, to make sure your mistakes help someone else win. It's taking the darkest chapter of your life and showing it to the world. This is the path to redemption. You can't erase your past. The scars are permanent, but your past doesn't have to control your future. It's the journey of a notorious drug kingpin who, after prison, becomes a motivational speaker, challenging kids to avoid the life that almost destroyed him. It's turning your biggest mistake into your most powerful message. It is a complete transformation. The moment you forgive yourself, not for what you did, but for who you were. The moment you decide your life is worth saving. You will not see these stories on the news. They're not told by reporters or cops. They're told by the only people who know the entire truth. In their own words, by the people who live through the insane rise, the devastating fall, and every single step on the comeback journey. These are stories of insane ambition and crippling regret, of crime and consequences, of losing literally everything and finding a new reason to live. This is more than true crime. This is the human story behind the crime. The why, the how, and what happens next. You can't erase the things you've done, but you can decide what you do next. And that's the only part that matters. This is